We wanted to come up with something that, Itera in its engineering capabilities. One of our more quiet and longtime employees literally just shouts out from his office, "Why don't we build a flamethrower?"
Welcome to episode 4. This is the Steel and Dirt Podcast, where we talk about everything related to heavy equipment and construction methods, which includes skid steers and skid steer attachments. And we know a lot of you are interested in that just like we are. So for that reason, I am really looking forward today to chatting with Jordan Lieb. Jordan is the Vice President at Skid Steer Solutions, and for those of you who haven't heard of them, Skid Steer Solutions is a family-owned and operated business since 1996, and they make top-of-the-line attachments and accessories for the compact equipment industry like skid steers. Hey, Jordan, welcome to the podcast. How you doing?
Hey, Troy, thanks for having me on. Doing good. It's a open start of the year. We're clearing our plate and making progress on a lot of key things coming. So it's a good start to the year.
Awesome. Hey, first, tell us where you're located.
We're out of Washington State, so a lot of people probably aren't too familiar with our area, but we're up Pacific Northwest, basically 20 minutes from the Canadian border, about an hour and a half north of Seattle, in a town called Bellingham, Washington.
Tell us how you got into the business. I know it's a family business, but how did you get in? And is it just something that you really, love the skid steers? And how did your love for all this begin?
Yeah, I won't speak for my father because he's got a real story to tell. I think, maybe like you said, for another podcast, maybe my dad would like to come on and tell that whole side. But for how I got into it, it's really not too complicated. More just being around my dad my whole life, being around attachments and skid steers. My family grew up riding dirt bikes, so we've always grown up with a skid steer being sort of the maker of our new adventure jump or whatever we're trying to build in the backyard. So I think we've always been around equipment and machines, and just like most boys growing up, digging holes and playing with big toys is always the fun thing. But no, I mean, my dad's passion, I think, really got passed on to me. I think the learning how productive these machines are and what you can do with them, I think is kind of what started to fascinate me. And my dad's kind of always self-described himself as a napkin engineer. He's certainly much more qualified than that. But I think us three boys have always been involved in whatever my dad was sort of coming up with in our backyard. And I was always fascinated with it. But I mean, once I was done with university, I got a business degree from the University of British Columbia up in Canada, and we do have a Canadian background and Canadian heritage in our family, so we're very much back and forth across that border. But yeah, so I'll touch a little bit on how my dad started the company. He was working for a telecommunications company. He was driving back and forth, and he bought our first piece of land in Washington State. It was kind of an acreage out in the county, out just outside of Bellingham, and he was stuck between buying a tractor like most people, and back in that time, skid steers were really just kind of coming up as a universal attachment carrying device. Bobcat had really started to come out with more attachments, and so we ended up landing on a Bobcat 642B. That's this kind of little famous machine that we've always kind of look back on and go, wow, that was our first machine. And he realized, our property was clay. It was wet all the time. And when he was trying to get the site prep done for the house he was eventually going to build, our family home, he was getting stuck all the time. And it wasn't nearly as productive as he thought it would be, the 2 hours he was spending after work before he was driving back home. So he, I guess kind of the immigrant story, just started doing it himself, figuring it out. And he invented over the tire tracks or chains, actually. and he started building that with his buddy up in Surrey, BC. And they started eventually listing those online. They started a website called overthetiretracks.com, and that's how the company got started. Really, was selling these little over the tire tracks. And a lot of people don't know that. A lot of people think we've always just been kind of focused on attachments, but and selling other people's attachments. But no, we've always kind of had our edge on making neat new products that kind of get you unstuck. So, but anyway, I came back into the business after school when we were really starting to build out this e-commerce experience that you might find if you visit our website skidsteersolutions.com. You can see we're not just working with a few attachments that we make ourselves. We're working with 60 or 70 brands across the U.S. that are from your small family-owned attachment manufacturers to some of the larger ones like Stanley, Black and Decker, and Paladin. So we're working with some of the most well-known attachment brands, and we're working with some of the smaller attachment brands that have a few niche products.
Now skid steers, they're not the big boy on the job site, but can we say they are probably the most versatile and maybe even badass piece of equipment that you would have on the site?
Yeah, definitely. I know we've always kind of when we are our new hires that come in, many aren't actually experienced with skid steers. A lot are, but not all of them are. And for the people that aren't that come into our business, they think skid steers are these big pieces of equipment, and so we often describe to them it's like no, these are actually the popcorn. These are the these are the little pieces on the job site, but they're certainly the most versatile, which is why it's such an awesome piece of equipment. And again, that's what makes it one of the better machines to have, especially for our customer base, which are your small businesses or landowners that have one or two machines, maybe a few, and they want a piece that they can depend on and use day in and day out. And when they get a new job, it's not switching machines; it's getting a different attachment. So the versatility, I think, is what makes skid steers and compact track loaders, for that matter, the sort of more universal piece of equipment on any job site.
Now, what are some of the different applications that a lot of people are using these for of late? You talked about a small property owners, and then you've got contractors and whatever. What are a lot of the different things they are doing with the skid steers?
Man, anything and everything. The I mean this the sheer amount of things you can do with a skid steer is unlimited. And I like to think that we know all the attachments that are out there, but every year I go to a trade show or two and I find a few that didn't exist last year. So there's certainly no end to what you can do and what you can put on the end. I know my dad has 3 or 4 new ideas every year. So it's kind of an unlimited thing, but I'd say the major pillars: forestry. You got a huge line of equipment for forestry and land clearing, so site prep, or right of way clearing. Everybody knows or I'd say most people kind of are very familiar with a mulcher. You've seen in the last 10 years, you've seen the mulcher evolve an enormous amount to even have a disc mulcher. So you typically have drum mulchers. Now you got disc mulchers. Now you got brush cutters, not just being brush cutters. Now you have them being 12-inch plus tree clearing devices. So in each category, it's constantly expanding. Snow removal is a big one. I know everybody in the Midwest and on the Canadian border, especially in the East Coast, are huge in snow equipment. So you got your snow pushers, your snow blowers, so on and so forth. There's a ton of snow equipment. Um, I like to kind of define the kind of drilling and construction and landscaping a little bit all together, but there's a lot of and even material handling. But your auger drives, your post drivers, all kinds of those types of attachments. So it's, and again, like I said, not one piece of equipment is or attachment is stuck in one pillar or the other, or one line or the other. You can take an auger and you can use that for whatever, wherever you need a hole drilled. That's where an auger attachment is going to be handy. So You'll see people using snowblower or dozer blades as snow plows. You'll see snowplow used as dozer blade, although hopefully it's built heavy enough. But that's again, it's a practical tool in the front of your machine. So whatever you can do with it, as long as it's built for it, so be it.
What would you say are probably the most popular or best selling few attachments that you sell?
I named a few there. I would say brush cutters all year long. It's almost like your loaf of bread. The grass doesn't stop growing. The trees don't stop growing either. And there's never really a shortage of expansion in construction. So you're always needing to clear the land for the next spot. And again, farmers are always expanding as well. And so brush cutters are huge. Auger attachments, pallet forks, grapples. Every time there's some sort of natural disaster or again any kind of site prep or land clearing work, you're always going to need grapples to pick up that material and move it off. So those are surely some of the common ones that are the most frequent sellers. Maybe some up and coming ones I think people might find interesting are for us, for instance, post drivers. Post drivers are not often thought of as a very frequently or high volume attachment, but a lot of people are investing in post drivers instead of an auger attachment and sometimes. So it's for the guys that are putting in fences, again, have big acreages or big farms. Post driver is an awesome tool to put the fence in. And yeah, so those are big ones. Say some other ones are the boom mower. We're seeing a lot more sort of boom mower side arm kind of attachments being innovated by numerous manufacturers. So people wanting to clear the ditch or sort of wherever, just right off to the side of the road. Doesn't have to be 10 feet out, can just be 4 or 5 feet out. There's a lot of companies that are coming up with solutions for that. We have our own. I'm sure people have seen our flamethrower attachment that we came out with, where we took our real industrial Raptor boom arm, again made by Terra, and we took the mower head off of it, and we thought this would be like a 3 month project, but it ended up being about a year and a half, and a lot more money than we thought it would be. But we built an actual flamethrower to promote kind of this versatility and this the range of motion of our Raptor boom arm attachment. And we put a flamethrower on it anyway, and let you guys investigate that a little bit more. But there's yeah, that was a fun project. So that's kind of a growing area. I think there's a lot of companies that are again trying to do more in the land clearing area with the skid steer. You're seeing companies like John Deere and Caterpillar come out with more forestry and land clearing packages for the machines because there's this, and Bobcat. So there's a lot of overheating issues, a lot of hydraulic issues when you're putting these high flow attachments on the front of these machines, and the guys are running them in the midsummer. It's 100 degrees. They're running nonstop, and so the machines are overheating, and they're having to stop and cool them down. Or everybody's it's probably seen the photos of some of these machines catching fire. So there's a lot going on in that world, I'd say. So yeah, like I said, brush cutters and land clearing.
Well, let's pick on equipment a little bit. I'm curious if you might have a favorite skid steer model, if you could only choose one, and maybe why you would choose that one.
Ooh, tough one. I'm not very brand specific. So I'm going to give you an array because I'm not, like I said, I'm not very brand loyal to any of the OEMs, but I'm certainly fond of the Cat 299D. I think it's got great reviews. We've had one in. We try to pick a few different machines to try our attachments on, especially when we do some of our overviews and demos that you can find on our YouTube channel. We're constantly, like, for right now, our current machine is an ASV RT120, and again, that's a very specific application for forestry. So it's not quite as good in some of the other arenas that we've, for instance, used our Kubota SVL 95. So that's why I say I don't necessarily have a specific favorite, because I'm almost kind of using them for all different things, not one specific thing. But I would say if I was picking one for forestry, I love the Cat 299D, and I love the ASV RT120. I think those two machines have been super reliable for us in sort of the light and medium duty testing we do with them. We're not using them, fall in, all out, all day long. But that's a good machine, like a good all around machine that I really liked, also just because of the entrance, and just how the cab was. I really like the Kubota SVL 95, and we have the 2S model. We've not had too many issues with that machine, and again, we've put 10 different attachments on that, and used it for 5 or 6 years. We do come across some things, which we're able to sort of work around and figure out. But like I said, I was going to give you an array. I was never going to give you one. So
Hey, we hope you're enjoying our show, and if you are, we would appreciate it if you would help us out. Crush that like button, hit the subscribe, and be sure notifications are on so you'll be notified whenever we release a new podcast, guide, or compilation. We appreciate the support, and now let's get back to the show. Now, we've noticed that you're offering tracks and tires as well, and we've done several articles, videos, etc., comparing the two. Um, is that just really job dependent and what you're using that unit for? Or in your experience, is there some particular function that really stands out that makes one more efficient than the other?
Yeah, definitely. Snow and soft ground. I mean, snow and soft ground are the number one sort of variations I think people are considering when they're choosing. Which again depends on where you are. Do you want a set of tracks for snow and a set of tracks for the seasons? And you might not be in a four-season sort of region. You might be somewhere down in the southeast in Florida. You might be in Arizona where it's always dry, or you might be like where my dad started our company, in our backyard, where it's clay, and so no, there's just like attachments. There's a track pattern for any machine. I think it kind of depends on like I said, the customer and what they're looking for. We have a lot of customers who are just looking for the most affordable, and they know they're going to burn through that track in a couple months, but it's what they can afford. And then you have the guys that are maybe have the ability to think further than that and can afford it, and they're looking at their traction and their performance time on the job, and what it's going to cost if this track fails, and so they're buying two, or they're buying the upgrade. Um, I'd say one thing that's kind of that's neat and maybe making a comeback is some of the traction accessories that you can add to tracks. So studs and track cleats. We used to have a product like that, but it kind of just, I don't know, it got maybe too expensive, and also just sort of fell off in popularity. But we're getting an increasing number of requests for just little things you can add to your tracks that add traction, like studs in the winter. So you can turn your tracks into sort of a studded, just like studded tires on your truck, right? You can add those to your tracks. Mixed reviews on those sometimes. Sometimes they come right out, or we've had customers who've complained they've damaged their driveways, but that's kind of what's going to happen when you're gonna drive over your new driveway with studs. And you're skidding. But there's kind of new things you can add to your tracks that just like attachments, that make them a little more versatile. So
As far as tires and tracks, which one outsells the other, or is it equal, or is one more?
tracks for us for sure. Tracks for us for sure, and that just might be where again, we're not the only contender in the market, but definitely tracks for us.
Now, you were mentioning accessories to the tracks. What about other accessories for the skid steer? I know there are other things that people may not have thought about. So, what other things outside of attachments can you get?
Some of these things I think are still very valid, and it's always surprised us. The number one surprise for me that's always kind of I've always wondered why aren't these in every single machine? It's a backup camera, just like in our cars. Why doesn't every car have a backup camera now? Increases safety. Everybody's fears they might run over their furry friend or their God forbid a family member, or bump into a car, things like that. Same thing for machines. Guys are jumping in the machines on a job site, turning around too quick, swinging into things. So we've seen an enormous amount of backup cameras go out. And again, still, manufacturers, it's not a standard feature in all machines. It's increasingly more so, but most of the time it is an add-on from the OEMs. So backup cameras, wiper kits. You can get replacement Lexan doors. So if you're a guy that's in land clearing, and you got to protect your cab, or your window's gone out already because you've had a rock blow back off a tree or a piece of wood come and shatter. I mean, I'm sure there's some people listening that have heard those horror stories of a piece of wood coming back and penetrating the cab. So you can upgrade your doors to forestry doors, and also just replace the standard OEM door. There's a lot of aftermarket companies, and we have a number of those options on our website. Um, so what have I covered? Backup cameras. Another one is anti-theft devices. That's increasing a lot. There's a lot of business owners looking to protect their investment, and not just the machine, but the attachments. Attachments are some of the most stolen items. We've had our run-ins with attachments being stolen ourselves. So anti-theft devices, things that can be added to the attachment that can help you track them and protect them, but also lock down your machine, whether that just be a GPS addition or an actual sort of locking device on the cab. There's a lot of things like that are available. Um, and then just kind of like the creature comforts, you got audio systems, add-on heat warmers to the seats. We actually just launched a little heated seat add-on, and that was actually a huge hit in the winter. A lot of people were kind of like, oh, okay, you kind of think that if you didn't add it with the machine, if they're even available from OEMs, if you didn't add it, then you can never get it. But there's actually some pads that you can just plug in 12 volt, and it acts the exact same. One more thing, actually, light bars. Lighting is a huge one. A lot of guys who want to work through the night, or when it's just getting dark. Those most of the stock machine lights just don't cut it when it gets really dark. Sure, it lights up things, but it's not enough to it's not enough to be safe. So
When it comes to contractors installing attachments, what's some of the mistakes that you hear about, or maybe one of the most common mistakes?
hose routing, that one came right to the top of mind. Hose routing is a big one. You can never underestimate the pain in the butt a hose pinch or cut will be when you just got your brand new attachment. That happens quite often. We do have a little in a lot of our attachments that it's kind of frequent with, where you got to really think about how you're routing it. We have a little guide that goes with each of our attachments. I think we also have some resources online for that as well. But again, it doesn't cure all cases of this. But hose pinches are huge, and that always comes down to hose routing. And then maybe to go along with that, not sizing the hoses properly. Um, some machines, like JCB, for instance, have their quick connects on the other side of the machine, as opposed to most manufacturers, because they got the single arm, single boom model. And so there's just kind of those common mistakes where someone might not mention what machine they have, and so it gets set up for another machine, and then they get it and they go, hey, these hoses don't fit, and so they got to take it to a local hose shop, or we're sending out a new set depending on what the preference is for that. So
I just wondered if some of that is during the purchasing process, that the contractors don't have the right information or whatever, and you guys have to get involved with that as well.
Yeah, don't have the right information, or sometimes even the manufacturer, doesn't follow through in some
Hmm.
cases, just because it is there's so many variations, and human error is human error. But yeah, I would definitely say information, and specing things properly, and just clicking the wrong thing. That happens. Um, yeah.
Is there anything else that you guys do custom or any kind of common requests for custom orders from contractors?
No, not. I wouldn't say we don't do custom, but I would say it's not something that's frequented. I would say that in the background we do take custom applications, and sometimes those make it into prototype form, and we ask our customers to prototype this, because it's not the first time we got that request. Like we said, well, I don't know if I mentioned this, but I think it kind of comes in the name. We're a solutions based company first, so rarely you'll see us turn you away. If we don't have it, we'll either work within our network and find you a manufacturer that can help you with that, or we might work on it ourselves and see what we can do. Um, so we do, when it makes sense, when it's plausible or fits within the realm of reasonable cost, we will work to find that end for someone. But I would say it's not the most common thing. Custom hoses or custom, we'll make something so it works better for the machine, which usually comes down to like a couple common things. Finding a different motor that fits within the drive system of an attachment, or a valve sort of adjustment. Those are some common things, because you got to work with some dated machines and some newer machines that maybe we didn't foresee some of the attachments going on. And so we can do that in house, but a lot of times, if it's not an if it's most cases it's an attachment that, of course, we're not the manufacturer for. So we'll work with the manufacturer and see if it's in their realm as well. So yeah.
Out of curiosity, I'm assuming you have a lot of repeat clients,
Yeah.
and probably those that have grown their business over the years. But I'm sure you have a lot of organic clients. Is there a pretty good balance of business there, or how does that work for you guys?
Our like I said from the start, we're always striving to be a resource first. And so the amount of information that's out there about the products that are on our store, in our store. And we're certainly one of the top companies out there that you can find very reliable information on products. And so we're always getting new customers. There's always a lot of traffic to Skid Steer Solutions. So there's certainly no end in sight for growth, and in our across all touch points. So we're talking with our customers over live chat, through phones, email, and again, we have quoting tools on our site where there's hundreds of quotes a day related to attachments and accessories. So there's no shortage there. And again, through COVID, when people knew that the supply chain was strained and dealers were closing because they couldn't they had new mandates to follow every week or every month. People were going online, and so we definitely have created a lot of good relationships over the last year. And then in the last 10 years, we have returning customers. So um, we I'd say, like, the the major the major difference between us that I think, and sometimes maybe over even the last 3 years, we kind of get confused with other companies that, we're just kind of an e-commerce store, and we're just have all these products up on our site, and we're just sitting back and waiting for people to place orders. But that's just not the case. We're getting 9 and 10,000 phone calls a month, if not more than that, and we're working with our customers daily to sort out what they need. We're a consultant for attachments and parts for these equipment owners, and we establish those relationships. And we really think of our website and our online presence as a resource. So for machine owners out there that aren't quite sure about what attachment or adaptive device they need to make maybe a cat let's see a cat soil conditioner or a cat grader to work on a bobcat. It's certainly something that we've been asked about and probably have a solution for. So reach out. Don't think that your only source for equipment and attachment information is the manufacturer. There's a lot of great attachment manufacturers out there that will make it work. So yeah, like us. So.
Now, all right, I touched on it just a minute ago. We cannot leave here today unless we get into a little more depth on this flamethrower. We want to hear everything. I mean,
Okay.
this is an
Yeah.
attachment that was created for, well, I'd say mainly just because it was badass, but because since its conception, are there any crazy stories that you've heard about it being used practically, or what are people doing with this out there?
Well, other than me watching my dad mix, I don't know how much of this I should say online. I'll just say, other than me watch my dad test on private property,
There you go. There
um,
you go.
test a napalm firing flamethrower. And again, we had all the safety precautions. Like we didn't do anything that we didn't do anything of extraordinary risk that wasn't vetted first. But you know, nothing like watching your dad test a napalm flamethrower cannon on the front of a skid steer that him and our shop engineers have been working on for a year for the first time. So starting there, it didn't work perfectly at the start. We had to adjust all the valves and everything to get the I want to make sure I get my chemical makeup here right. We had it's a nitrogen tank on the back of our Kubota for everyone that's probably YouTubing eTerra flamethrower. There's a nitrogen tank and there was a fuel accelerant. I won't tell you the exact makeup, but rhymes with palm. No, yeah, it's we're mixing napalm and firing it out in some of those first test videos and getting that propellant to fire properly and shoot it out far enough from the machine, because you don't want, there's nothing more dangerous than having that not work and have a bunch of accelerant and napalm dripping all over the ground, not catching fire. And just we did a lot of tests without any sort of flammable products, using water, using all kinds of different things to make sure we got that right. So yeah, like I said, we vetted the safety there. But yeah, we this all started basically because we've always had a strong online presence on Facebook and Instagram and YouTube, and we just wanted to be more fun and but also show sort of our engineering and creative excellence at eTerra. And so we knew we had this amazing product that's a Raptor boom arm attachment. And if go on eterra-usa.com and look at how that product is built, and we just wanted to show that. We wanted to come up with something that would show that and show eTerra in its engineering capabilities. And so we knew the Raptor was sort of a way of doing that. We thought of mowing over watermelons and pumpkins and just doing all the kind of things that have probably already been done before. And then people were throwing out ideas. Some of them were terrible. We're all just laughing. And then one of our more quiet and longtime employees, been with us for about 15 years. His name's Austin. He just literally just shouts out from his office, "Why don't we build a flamethrower?" And we all just kind of go quiet for like 30 seconds, and we're thinking about a flamethrower. Like, what do you mean? So he shows us these, and you can buy these online. This company, X Flame, that makes these handheld flamethrowers, a lot like what you saw in World War II with the guys carrying these, can packs and shooting napalm out, and fired, almost the exact same. Of course, it looks a little more civilian. And so we reached out to that company and had a conversation with them about, possibly doing a partnership with us where we take what they have, we, make it a little more industrial. We engineer and manufacture our own parts for it, try to retrofit wherever we can, and we put it on a skid steer, and we do kind of a partnership. So we started that, and we thought this would take 2 months. We thought we would have it all figured out. And, the issue of the routing, right, all the way onto the machine. Like, how are you going to get this all routed through the machine where it's, there's no pinch points, it's safe. And so, this 3-month project that, we, under forecasted ended up being about a year and a half. our manufacturer, within, it was within a month, we had the actual cannon that you see on it. It's this chrome plated, beautiful gun. Had that all done in a few weeks. And, one of our partner manufacturers was like, okay, so done my part. 2 months from now, we should see this thing running. Like I said, year and a half down the road of testing, we finally got it firing. And I think one of the things that got us really going on it was we had this potential opportunity to feature this at a Monster Energy Supercross. So we had an opportunity to, if anyone who watches who's a dirt bike or motocross fan, you've probably seen a Supercross race where you got three Cat 259s, or just Cat skid steers and track loaders running around the track, grooming all the jumps. They do a lot of pyro. And so we had this race team going where we were sponsoring a Supercross team, connecting, machine owners and, a lot of guys out there who own skid steers are building a dirt bike track for their kids. And so we saw this unique opportunity to sponsor a passion of ours. And, one thing led to another, and they reached out and said, hey, would you be interested in possibly featuring this thing? Of course, it was kind of a dynamic back and forth. It didn't end up working, but that kind of lit the fire under our butts, and we got it done. We started making videos around the same time that Elon Musk was launching his boring company. I'll call it his handheld torch. It's not so much a flamethrower, and so all the recipe was, all the ingredients were there to sort of have this video go viral. And yeah, we all our own engineers. It's kind of a video in the making still, where we have this interview that we plan on releasing at another time that goes into how we made it. We never got around to finishing it. But there's a video online that kind of talks about some of the makings of it and shows how it was made. But yeah, I think some of the crazy stories there are, maybe detailed offline. But we definitely had some run-ins with a fire department. I can tell that one, actually, if you got time. We're out about 15 minutes outside of a small town, about 100,000 people. And over the last 10 years, what really was a neighborhood of people with motocross tracks. I mean, the fellow on our back, back property line, he's got machines, he's digging ponds, he's got a shooting range. Guy down the road has a dirt bike track. Guy on the other side of the road has a dirt bike track. All sort of started to kind of wind down a little bit. And we started to have people from the city move out. So a couple of our neighbors, a little more city living folks, aren't really used to all the noise and things like that. So we've had to kind of monitor, how much machines we're using, and don't want to disturb anyone. But of course, our neighborhood is not the way it used to be. So, well, where are we going to test this flamethrower? We're not going to test it anywhere else but our own property. And so when we finally get it up and running, we decided that there was only a certain amount of times to test this, and we wouldn't go outside of that because we don't want to, draw any unneeded attention to the guys making a flamethrower. So one night, though, we wanted to do a night shoot because we thought the only way to really show how far this fire is really shooting, and we're not trying to fire this thing. I mean, it's quite expensive to and with time and mixing and just the amount of time it takes to get the flamethrower running. It machines out, you got your camera crew. It's expensive to do this, so we're trying to take every opportunity to get the cool night shots. So one evening, we're doing this night shoot, and this is the first time we've had some issues. My dad takes the machine and goes up and down our private road, and he's firing this flamethrower every 3 seconds, so it looks like a cannon. Like, it's just, you can see this little fireball going 100 feet in the sky. We're just filming it. We're getting these money shots, and literally about 30 minutes later, fire department's coming. And in our area, because of the way our property is, we're a little bit up, but a lot of the trees have been cleared, so you can see the blue and red like in the sky. Like, you know when they're coming. And so we heard some a fire truck coming, and we're going, who calls it? Like, who called the fire department? In our area, it's probably a volunteer fire department. So we're going, okay, someone's called the fire department. So we take the machine, we put it in the shop, and we're all kind of just hiding in the shop. And, fire department circles around. It's a big kind of, country road. They go off, nothing more of it. Well, we find out in like one of those neighbors, threads, that app next door or something, that someone had posted, "Hey, have you seen the fireballs? Shot. Anyone else see a fire down on our road and or this road or that road?" And people are commenting on it. We're going, oh, "Okay, there they people saw that they saw the fire like 50 feet up, 40 feet up, kind of thing." Okay, got it. Well, that's the first time. So the second time, it was our actual launch of the attachment. So we had our whole company come out. Again, everybody got their rundown on, you got to be 100 meters back. You got to be in this area when we're doing this. Also, because we don't want too many people in the shot, and we don't want to worry about anything. So for your safety, stay over here. And so this whole theme of this night is all planned out, where the machine's going to go, what we're going to burn. And we built this bonfire out of fallen trees over the last 10 years that we've collected, like just dead trees. And we've stacked them up with the grapple and the excavator. And we built this massive bonfire. And the machine drives into it, starts going like this, just spraying napalm, just blowing this bonfire up. And that's all going well. It's the first time a lot of our employees have seen this actually run, and we're getting all these amazing shots with the drone and video, and we're thinking it's done. And people are now, having hot dogs and having beers, and again, blue and red. And this time, it's like it is the fleet of the fire department, and we're off in the back, kind of organizing. And maybe a side part of this story is I've just come out of a surgery the day before, so I'm still a little like I'm in a sling. I broke my collarbone, so I'm still in a sling. And there's fire department coming onto our property, seeing this bonfire. And they're not there for the flamethrower, they're there for this bonfire that they've said violates sort of the code. And in our opinion, it doesn't, because we have machinery there to put it out. It's nothing different than possibly a logger stacking up all the old wood and burning it off. And so we have that discussion with them, but they say your machinery is not big enough to put it out. We agree, but would you just mind putting it out? We're like, yeah, okay, no problem. Meanwhile, the whole time, we're just glad that they don't see 100 feet off. We didn't even have time to hide the boom mower and the flamethrower. We didn't even have time to hide it. It's sitting off 100 meters in the back with it kind of folded in and turned around. They're not asking about some of the complaints, which were that there's these flames in the sky, and they just assumed it was our massive bonfire that was flickering up.
Ah.
And so we're like, yeah, sure, we'll throw, we'll put it out, we'll put water on it, and we'll throw dirt on it, and we'll move it around. But that's the untold story of maybe the behind the scenes a little bit there.
So, as we wrap up, tell everybody where they can find you guys, and let's be sure that they know exactly how to find you, and they've heard about all the great products and every services that you have. It's not just products, and that's the thing that we want to get across. This is a full service company. They do a lot of things beyond just ship out attachments, and that's what we wanted everybody to get that message today. But tell them where they can find you.
Thanks. Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. So skidsteersolutions.com is where you're going to find all the suppliers that we represent. And again, that's some family owned businesses around the country that just sell a log splitter or a grapple or brush cutter. And then your top names like Vernig, Paladin, Stanley, Sydney Tree Shears, M&M Tree Shears, and many other great companies. You can find them on skidsteersolutions.com. You can order direct from us. We promise you'll get great after the sales service and support, and the manufacturers are also there to support you. For any of the eTerra products, you again can find those on skidsteersolutions.com. We have a dealer locator on eterra-usa.com. We do work with dealers, and we're actively growing our dealer presence around the United States. We have about 15 product lines. We have clearing mowers, auger attachments, post drivers, and concrete mixers as well, and a few other products. So yeah, check us out, skidsteersolutions.com and etera-usa.com.
Very awesome. Jordan, thank you for your time today. We greatly appreciate it.
Thanks for having me, Troy. Anytime.